Hi,
Hi.
can you
Hey,
hear
how
us?
are you?
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
let me just turn off. Let me just escape this for a second. Turn my mail off. Great. Hi.
What's
Hey.
up? How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good.
Where are you?
I'm in Minneapolis.
And where?
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
Wow, gotcha.
Yeah, that's a little bit
Thanks
later.
for
We're
thanks for
doing.
letting me do this. I've been a fan since I was like 9.
All
Aw,
right.
that's so cool. Thank you.
That's a long
Yeah.
running game. So
So I could just jump around before getting into Fire Emblem question.
okay.
So for both you guys, what was the job that got you into SAG?
Oh, that's a good question.
Hmm.
Um,
You started when you were a teen.
yeah. Oh, that was pretty long ago. I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or no, I think I got in on a show called Father Dowling Mysteries where I was doing background Walla for a kid, but then I was on then I went on to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original. Yeah, and I think I got in right on those two. I was 16.
And what was the fee to get in at that time?
It was expensive. Like I remember my dad going, "I'm not paying for this," but I think it was like maybe 1,000 or 600 or something like that. Now it's like,
Wow.
yeah,
Now it's
it's
like $3,000 or
4,000.
$4,000.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. How about you? Oh, I
Um,
gave you that.
Yeah, mine actually came from being able to. Jessica used to do all the airline versions for Miramax, so they would bring back out all these old Jet Li and these who's the other one?
Jackie Chan.
So they needed someone to do a Jackie Chan and then some other characters that had like a Shanghainese accent, but in English. So I was able to do that, and I was tapped Hartley for that, which means you become a must join for.
I'm going
SAG.
to correct you on that. That's not when you got in. You got in doing the Seed of Chucky.
It was before that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the Seed of Chucky or Thumbelina or something like that, where they needed you to voice match.
No, this is where it was like a Jackie Chan movie.
Oh, okay.
But
I
for
take
actors
it back.
too.
Sorry. honey.
The other ways to get into the union is to do extra work. So
Yeah.
you get vouchers and do it that way. So I worked on a number of films trying to get vouchers, and I think I was on my third one, but then there was some discrepancy, so they had to. I ended up getting in this way, and the guy who got me in there, I bought him a nice bottle of Dom Perignon, and it's been a long time friend since.
That was a long time. Yeah.
So I know in terms of anime, Little Snow Fairy Sugar would have been one of the first things.
Yep, she was directing it, so
Yep.
she gave me my first job there doing anime, and I was the tower keeper or something.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Kind of blossomed from there.
That was a fun little show. Yeah.
Did you guys both take the dubbing easy, or was it difficult to get used to?
Really easy. I don't think it's an easy skill at all.
Oh no. We
Um,
have a friend who thought it was easy and
and
learned the hard way that it's not.
yeah,
This
he
is
was
back
like,
in
"This
the
is
old
gonna be
days.
so easy." We brought him in to do it, and he
He
was
was a
like,
great actor too.
"Forget it,
Yeah,
forget like
totally.
hands up, forget it." Because there's a skill that goes into it, and I'm sure you've talked about this before with other people. But you've got to be able to act, and what we're seeing a lot of in this as directors, because we can sit on both sides of the glass now, so to speak, is there are a lot of people sort of match what the characters look like, but they don't have any acting experience. And, we cringe. It's cringy because we're like sitting there trying to direct them and they just don't have the acting chops to do it. You got to get what's on screen now as it rolls by into the mouth of somebody. That's a skill in and of itself, and make it sound good without detracting from the original actors, prowess and their acting skills. You got to make it match. So there's a lot of components, and I think it's a feeling. that all of those kind of filter into this one feeling of like, I've got it. I've got it. I read that character. I understand what they're doing. I understand where it's coming from, even if it's in a different language or, you know, a different storyline in anime. And I still, you know, I still need to understand what's going on before me and what's going on after. So I think a good director is going to help you kind of mold into that as well.
More than
Guys
just a
know.
voice, for sure.
Do you guys know what the first like major character part in anime was for both of you?
Yeah, I think the first time I was the lead in a series was Requiem from the Darkness, which
Oh
was
yeah,
cool series. It's really different artwork and
yeah.
kind of black and white and green and gold palette and purple and just interesting old ghost stories and folklore from Japan that they brought into this. And
Yeah.
it was just it was a great experience for me because it was, you know, when you're locked in a booth and you're kind of playing that character, being able to go through all these stories and the horrors that you're seeing, and it comes alive when you're working in the dark. So that was super fun, and it kind of, that's how I promoted myself at the beginning, was as the young actor, because, or the young hero, because that's who works the most in anime, are the young characters. So that kind of propelled me into the next role, and then it started changing and going to more villains and all kinds of good stuff. So
Yeah. Mine, well, I think my biggest first role was in Akira, but that was the only thing that we were doing back then. So,
Yeah.
and that's in the 80s, but late 80s, I think. That was my first big role, but I think the first major one I did was Sugar, right? Not, I mean, you know.
Digicarrot.
Digicarrot, yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say Neil to remember
after every line.
after every line. Yeah, Digicarrot. I think that was my first big role of like not even realizing the extent of it and the hours being put in to it. I'm still friends with that director, miraculously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what do you guys think for anime is the darkest headspace you've had to go for a character?
Mine would be probably Hunter x Hunter.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, yeah, that one. You know, he gets controlled by that whole just negativity and everything, and it just like sucks his soul out, and that's actually a knob, and then his hair turns white from it. That was what was great about that particular scene, especially, is that Tony Oliver, who was the director of that, kind of just because a lot of it is head voice or it's off screen, he just let me roll through that whole scene completely, and it was a great gift for an actor when you can do that, because you just keep that consistency as opposed to working line by line. And so that scene has a lot of impact. I've actually read some great reviews, which are few and far between, where they're like, wow, I actually like the English dub better than the original. Like, he really nailed it. So I was like, wow, it's not always just the haters who write it and make comments.
Yeah. And mine, I don't play any dark roles. I'm always the sweet little girl. All the roles I play are dark because I have that ballsy voice, you know, for a female. So it's not I don't play the little characters. I did in Digicarrot because I can do those, and I have kind of more of a cartoony sound. But I probably Sakura Ogami, or like like anybody, you know, Panne. I probably those characters where I have to be rough and tumble, and I'm trying to think, but dark wise, more so in video games, doing darker characters. But yeah, I think I lean more towards the tougher characters, and then dark. But I have played a couple of villainous types. Yeah.
Petz.
Yeah, she's evil, like evil sorcerer in Sailor Moon, but yeah, I guess that's a good one too. But not to the extent of what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
It's perspective. I mean, villains believe they're doing the right thing.
The right thing.
Too.
Right.
So,
Well, Grant, how did you approach something like Higurashi?
yeah, that one from When They Cry. Is that the one you're talking about? Yeah, that was also another big series for me, kind of being the lead, carrying that whole thing. And that was dark too, because you've got sort of both sides of the coin, where it's like this kid who's new to the town, kind of feels insecure, wants to make friends, but he's got this whole other side to him, the dark side. So again, that was another great director giving me a lot of freedom to explore. And I just, it's, I think that's why it's so critical what Jessica was saying earlier about acting, is that because in the old days, even 4 or 5 years ago, we were kind of working line by line. You have to be able to get to those moments in each of those beats of the script as an actor very quickly, because then one scene you're at a school, like in that series, you're at the school and you're just hanging out with your friends, having a good time, joking, blah blah blah, and all of a sudden the next scene you're swinging a bat and bashing people up. So you have to be able to get into that mindset and quickly and work from line to line.
Do you guys think
that was a fun one? Very fun.
Yeah.
Sure do.
Do you guys think that you prefer working on more dramatic projects opposed to comedic, or no?
I'm always gonna choose comedy, because I think that's just kind of in my blood. But I also think maybe I'm 50-50. I like drama, I like drama, anything that, that draws people in. But I love doing campy things too. It's pretty fun. Both. I'm comfortable doing both. I can go deep and I can go slapsticky funny. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way, about 50% on each side. I think comedy comes very easy. So being able to make people laugh is like a skill that I've always loved having since I was a kid. And I think because it comes so easy as an actor, I feel I don't have to work so hard for it. So I prefer doing these dramatic roles that like really just force you to immerse yourself in that moment and release things that you didn't even know were there in the recesses of your mind. So there's something cathartic about that. There's something that's just in terms of creative expression, so fun to do that drama. I think probably because I didn't probably have a lot of self-expression growing up. There wasn't room to show emotions probably. And so this is my way of being able to do that. I think that actually started, I had an audition for the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. And everything I'd done up to that point from high school and was musicals or, funny shows or melodramas or whatever they did in high school. And I had to prepare a dramatic monologue for entrance into that, to audition for it. And that was sort of the first time that I was able to perform something really dramatic in front of an audience, because everybody was watching me practice with my drama teacher in the high school. And I realized, this is a whole nother side. And I think I put a lot of emphasis in trying to be a dramatic actor, when probably it's easier just to go with what comes naturally from you and just go with a comedy. But
yeah.
And who do you guys think that you, in terms of your bigger characters in anime projects, who do you guys think you relate the most to?
Well, honestly, probably this character, Sigurd from Fire Emblem. And he's very similar to Warrior of Light and Izuru Kira from Bleach. And I typically kind of get cast as these heroic people who are kind of the light in this world of darkness, which is kind of cool, especially when I was working on Sigurd and I was reading some of these lines. That was I was in a place where I was really exploring a lot of, self-improvement and all this other, mystical stuff and spiritual stuff. And these lines just really sat with me. Like this just really, it was a perfect timing for me to play this character, kind of come back and play this character again, because it resonated with me. And I think I think there's a reason that I kind of get cast in that. That's sort of who I am as a person, like hopefully bringing some kind of light to the world and being a defender for people who need that kind of help and who may not feel as strong, and helping them find their way. And at the same time, it goes back to, I love playing the villain. I love being the bad guys and having that, just the sort of the Joker-esque characters that are just all over the place, and there is no rhyme or reason, spontaneity of that.
Yeah. I don't know. I like the sweet moms kind of, and the sweeter characters, just because I think my voice lends itself well to that, and because it is me, you know, I'm like the sweet mom, but
Like Kriya in Land Before Time.
yeah,
Sarah's mom.
yeah, like I always, that's kind of my, just like who I am when I open my mouth. So I think I love that. But like Grant said, on the flip side of that, you know, I love the tough, fast, pardon the, can I say that? I love those I love those characters too that just come out like balls out wanting to fight, and reprising that role for so many years, like doing this in some of the games and some of the mobile apps, and also, and you remember how to go with that. And like it's so funny because you could not go into have done that character for like 5 years or maybe even more, and come back and like lock and load. You hear yourself from something else, and then you go in and you're like, oh yeah, her, right?
Yeah.
And you sort of, that character, you embody that character, and that character embodies you, and that's what I love. So I think probably Fire Emblem would be, you know, my choice around that too, and the characters that I've played in that. Tough, sexy, always tough, always sexy, you know, kind of mystical sometimes as well.
Well, Jessica, I think the first thing I thought that I heard you in, funny that you brought that up, was in Dynasty Warriors.
That was a long running character.
Long running character.
Wrong.
Jurong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that ran for that was a long time. Jurong. We had that still gets a lot of notoriety, which is interesting. You know, people really love that character.
And phone calls.
And phone
She had
calls.
a phone call once from someone who just couldn't imagine the fact that Zhurong was married to Spoon Jian. So they'd be like, they would call and be like, Zhurong? And we're like, no, this is Jessica.
At 5 a.m.
Yeah, 5 a.m.
5 a.m.
Obviously on the East
Wow.
Coast.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's our character. We're always super nice to, you know, to people no matter what, because you know, there's a cast of characters that definitely show up at conventions, and you know, who anime caters to, including our kids. But we just have a big heart for people who find their community within anime. And so we've always taken on the role of like, you're not bothering us, but you know, like you have to remember that there's social graces, like not calling people at 5 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, this one got a little wacky, a little wild.
Well, just kind of asking us for advice on how to handle certain situations. We're like, okay,
Suicide.
we're not really heroes
Yeah.
in real life.
In real life. Yeah. So it was interesting, but we kind of entertained them for a while, and then we were like, okay, I'm gonna call your mom now, because they had told us that they were, I think, a 18-year-old girl or a boy,
Right.
and it turned out to be a 15-year-old girl.
Oh,
Yeah,
or
or something like that. Yeah.
But we have, you know, in the conventions, have heard many stories of people for whom this is really important, these series or these games, and to the point where they feel like this got them through a very difficult stage in their life, and they want you to know that, you know, you were a part of that, and how important what you do is to their survival process, probably. And we don't take that for granted. Like, that's an honor to be able to do, you know, with our own talent, do something that hopefully has an impact in the world in a good way. So
Yeah, you can't believe how many times you really hear that.
yeah.
You know, your character, it just helped me, or I love that character, or that I identify with that character. So it's kind of cool.
well, I think it is really interesting too that you guys have both gotten to be, you know, part of such a big legacy series like Sailor Moon and Fate, the whole Fate franchise together.
Yeah, we're really grateful, you know. And you know, there are people that come in and they take our roles over, and then we hear that it's like never ending in texts and emails and calls and letters written, you know, like, why? Even though we're giving everybody a fair shake, but you know, I guess they go to new companies, and new companies hire new actors, and price matters and stuff like that. So so sometimes we come out of those, and sometimes we reprise them. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually just directed a game where some of the characters we had voiced in the past, and then it had gone through a different incarnation at one point, and someone else had played the characters that we had done, and now we were kind of back playing those, or they had to bring the people that had taken over. So you
Yeah.
know, it goes on.
Yeah, that was
Just
a good game.
people are available, or they're not available, or it's different companies, like Jessica said, that don't want to work with us.
You speak for yourself.
I had one of our clients, long-term client, said, "Hey, there was somebody on I was watching some commercial. It sounded just like you." I'm like, "Nah, it's not me." He's like, "Oh, I mean, this is like a dead ringer for your voice." He's like, "Well, just find out who it is, because as soon as I find out, I can hire that guy instead of you, because I can't stand working with you." I'm totally joking, but
Dave.
it was
That's funny.
Bob.
Oh, that's funny.
But
You guys tend to, there's probably not that much time, I know, but have you guys consumed very much anime that you're in, or no?
and yeah, it's hard. Our sons watch
Our
it,
sons watch
so
it,
sometimes
and they're
Yes.
they're so unamused that their parents do that.
Totally.
Like literally, I think our nephew was doing something, and I'm like, "That's Grant, right?" He was watching
He
something,
played Soul Calibur, I think.
or yeah, doing
Oh.
something, and we're like, "That's Grant." And he's like, "Yeah." Anyway, so like, you don't throw me off my game, type of thing. But our kids are so like, I guess when you're born into having parents that do what they do, and having kind of, yeah, and in the entertainment business in Los Angeles, everybody's parents are in the entertainment business, and it's our factory, our local factory is working in that. So I think, they're like, yeah, no big deal.
Totally unamused. And then they'll
Unamused.
be like fans of somebody that's a YouTuber or something. I'm like, what does he do? Why isn't it important for be fans of us?
Yeah. So, but I think we've always, you're going to have people who are very into watching themselves and very into watching those games. And then you're going to have people who are the workers.
Mhm.
And I think we fall into the latter.
Yeah, and that's the challenge too, is that a lot of people ask us about the games or the storylines, or why your character did such and such in a certain episode, and we'll be like, we don't know. I mean, there are
Yeah.
people who come into this business who are fans of games, grew up playing games,
Yeah.
love the stories of games, and so they want to be a part of that magic. So they go into voice acting, or start taking workshops or whatever it takes, and do it because they're fans and they love being a part of that community. There's other people like us. We work in all different genres of voice and on camera as actors. So, we're doing commercials at our home. We do video games, we do promos, trailers, working looping on films and TV shows, and on camera as well. So we're all over the place. This is a job for us. It's all about acting, and in some of these things we just show up, and because it's so protected by non-disclosures and games they don't want people to know any information about, we don't even know what the game is half the time we show up, until we look at the character and go, "Oh my gosh, Sigurd, okay, well, we're back. This is what this game is," when it had a code name of such and such.
The wave, you're coming in for the wave, and you're like,
Exactly.
okay. And then they're like, okay, hi, we're from blah, blah, blah. And oh, okay, we're reprising this role.
And
Right.
even then, yeah, with games, it's like everything's just line. So you're just kind of banging through these lines.
Love those.
Sometimes you'll see it if it's in the story line, then you'll see the lines that are coming in and out of it. And a great director can kind of give you the context of what's going on.
Yeah.
Other times, like the Dissidia series, it was just
Oh, yeah.
one line at a time, and then they would deliberate. They had people on from I think China or
Mhm.
Japan, and they would deliberate on something for about 15 minutes. You come back to the next line. You're like, okay, well, I'm getting paid by the hour, so
Mhm.
take your time. But it's just such a strange way to work, so slowly, like one line.
Yeah, there's a
Wow.
lot of deliberation. It depends on if you're working. We just direct differently. I think we direct really quickly because we have a massive amount of lines to get through. So we don't have the time to deliberate with the client. Anyway, it's not our place to deliberate as directors, or as talent. But I just did a session where, man, I think it was like, I saw 25 lines. I'm like, I'm going to be done within the hour. I bang out 75 lines to 150 lines, sometimes 200 lines in an hour, depending on who the director is and how much deliberation there was. And that 25 lines took 3, what wasn't it, like
Yeah.
3 hours?
Well,
I could like run out and do laundry in between. There was so much deliberation, so much back and forth talk, and I couldn't understand a word. And I was mad that I was like, I want to understand what they're saying. Hold up my Google Translate to try to understand it. And then they come back and go, okay, we like it.
They're probably just ordering lunch or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
This is more of a vocal specific question. What do you think for any character is the case for you guys have had to alter your voice the most significantly?
Panne probably, right? Or Sakura.
Probably
Sakura, yeah. Well, and also academia.
Little Witch Academia.
Little Witch. Yeah, like I have to Holbrook, but that's a really easy character for me to do. To go into that little old lady, and doing her. But I think when I first saw Sakura, the picture, I was like, well, she looks like a man. Yeah. So I'm just going to do my man voice. And they're like, yep, that one. But, I've done, it's interesting because this brings up this whole, there was a more contemporary show on called Zach Storm that was on. And I walked into the audition and it was like, we want this kind of Eastern European fortune teller. And I came in and I did it, and I did her okay. And like I made a connection with it, and I wasn't going to go to this audition. And I really wasn't. I was in a mood. I don't know what had happened, but it was years ago. And then I walked out of that audition, and just as somebody was coming in to audition for their role, I walked back in and I said, I'm sorry, you guys, I have to do this, but I have to read this my own way. Right. So without this, I hear something else. Can I just lay this down? And so I did it without that accent and doing this kind of different late older woman sound. And they went, okay, that's great. And we'll give them both. Well, they picked the Eastern European. I recorded all of her doing this mystical, Eastern European reading the crystal ball thing. And then I had to come back in because they liked the audition that I had given as a second place. And I had to redo all those lines in the new character that I had given. So there was that deliberation. Yeah. I think that was a pretty fun voice to get into also. You have to remember how to keep those voices too.
Yeah, maintain it. Then you use that in Hotel Transylvania movies as the witches, same kind of voice. That's actually a great series, though. The Zach Storm. It's made by the same people who do Zagtunes. Miraculous.
Oh, okay.
And it's like 12 episodes, 13 episode series.
That's been the gift that's kept giving. It's Miraculous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There are a lot of anime people who like that show also. They'll kind of accept it, because
right.
You're on one side of the fence or you're on the other, but then they're like, oh, you're in Miraculous? Yeah. Wow, that's been a show that's gone on for like 5+ years.
Yeah, mine was probably Cho Gall the Cho Head from World of Warcraft, Cataclysm, and some other games, and now like the Heroes of the Storm or something like that.
World of Warcraft.
It's a two-headed monster. Yeah. And every time that we go into any kind of Blizzard project, they bring a kit. That's when we were working in person. Now a lot of it's remote.
Throat kit.
They bring a throat kit that has all these different throat coats and things for you to have. But that was a beast. No pun intended, but because it was just, it's slobbery. I was taking water the whole time, and because they wanted that spitty, watery, wet sound.
Yeah.
So doing that plus everything was just gravelly and loud and ballsy, and that left scars on my vocal cords, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And it keeps coming back, which is a great thing. But I mean, I love the character, but you see that coming back, you're like, oh, okay, I gotta try to set this on a Friday
at 3 o'clock.
Saturday and Sunday to heal from that, or don't have a singing lesson the next day, or whatever. It's just that takes a lot out of the throat. But
I'd say Diablo and all the World of Warcraft stuff that we've done, they're always kind of throat heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
But then we gotta flip it. Then it goes all the way over to playing Yikes and Popples, which is all like way up high like Elmo. So running that whole gamut is used to be really important. Now you kind of just get hired for your natural voice for most of the games. Slight variation, slightly younger, slightly older.
I wish it'd get silly, a little sillier again.
Yeah. Once in a while, those pop up. We get
Yeah.
some fun stuff.
Those are fun.
Well, speaking of silly, Grant, the first thing that I heard you in would have been Buyers in the Disgaea
Yeah.
games.
Yeah. That was fun. That
Alex, who would you play?
well, I play Byers, who's the don't call him mid boss, the dark honest.
Yeah.
And I also did the Prinnies in that.
Yeah.
And then gosh, I can't even think of his name. Axel.
Axel.
Yep.
That's what I said. Alex. That's
Right. Just reverse a couple of letters
Yeah.
and you got yeah, those were fun because especially Byers, because that's just such a big, so full of himself, that character. So I
This
love
guy
that
is a great game.
hmm
one. Yeah.
Yep.
And this is one that I wanted to bring up, Grant, as well. Nobody ever talks about Kakaishi. Do you remember being one of the leads in that?
Yeah. Trying to think
Again?
what his name was. What was it?
Again,
Yeah, again. Yeah, that was a great series too. And people loved that series, which was interesting. It kind of came and went, and I haven't heard much about it until you just brought it up.
Yeah.
I love playing that character too, because that one had some, I just love having those characters have that duality where they present as a certain thing, but there's really all this other stuff going on, whether they're half beast or something that they have to deal with in their life. Yeah, I love that series. That was fun. There's one day where you show up and they're like, the director, Susie was like, bad news, this might be our last session. I'm like, no.
Oh, I love Susie. Yeah.
Yeah, when your characters get offed, it's kind of the end. You're
Yeah,
like,
but in
"No."
anime, they always come back
Yeah,
in some
exactly.
other
So,
incarnation. Yeah.
but sometimes those are the most fun scenes to do. Like you were talking about the Fate series, playing Lancer.
Lancer.
It's no spoilers allowed here, but that was fun. That was a fun scene to play too.
I don't know if there's much of a story about it, but I know one anime that you guys got to be both leads in together was Kanekon.
Yeah,
How long ago
that
was
was a long
that?
time. That was with Ruben, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't remember too much about that, unfortunately.
yeah. I don't remember my characters too much. Those were. Here's an example of a person who wants to get the job done, and so the direction wasn't there. Nicest
Yeah.
person in the world, but it just was bringing you in. You had no direction. You just went for it. And sometimes you're like, can I have the direction for this so I know where I'm, what the base is so that I can come from somewhere, or where am I going, or who am I talking to? It wasn't there. You just did your lines and prayed that they would be okay. And then you're like, that sucked.
I'm so horrible.
I'm so bad.
Nothing matched the singing.
Oh no, it's good. And we'd walk out thinking, like, how was that? It's the worst performance I ever gave in my life, and then they'd put that stuff together and it would get a following. Big following. When anime first came, Akira was kind of the inception, and then it sort of went down to dirtier anime, as we call it. And those still have a huge following too, the over 18s.
Yep.
And that was happening a lot in LA, because LA was the only place that was doing it, just because we sort of have the adult capital of the world here. And so a lot of that was coming down the line, and then the more legit shows started coming in. So all of us were working on some crazy stuff back then. Until you have kids, and then you make a decision that you're not going to be in those things anymore because it would be inappropriate. Or that was pre-Me Too movement. Pre-Me Too movement by 2 decades.
So is there a special story of how you guys first became involved in the Fire Emblem series, or was it just a general audition?
Gosh, I don't even remember. Wasn't that Stacy?
No, we did this with a Cup of Tea.
Yep.
It's a great studio. I love working with those with that team.
Oh yeah,
Patrick Seitz typically is directs over there, and he's phenomenal, and I love his direction.
my favorite guy. Yeah. His
Because
direction's
his
the best.
direction is like, okay, you walk into this dark chamber, you turn around a corner, and you see this giant monster, and you know you're boned.
You're boned. Right.
Got it. Let's go.
Let's go. But he makes you laugh. That is a great director. You
Yeah.
know, he's one of the best. So is Wendy Lee, and like they just people who know how to connect with their actors so well. You know, you just appreciate them, and we both have picked up tips and learned from them wholeheartedly. So gosh, how long ago was the first
I
Fire
don't know if
Emblem?
sometimes, back in the day when there were less of us, they would just plug us into these roles that they felt
Was
were
it
appropriate.
seen Jurgen that they did that first?
That was the Dynasty Warriors.
Oh, Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, Fire Emblem was all cup of tea. Gosh, nicest people in the world, like nicest people that run that, nicest studio, caring, kind, considerate, and easy. Like just
Yeah,
the way
it should
there's the way it should be. They're like the pillars and of people that make it make your sessions great from the moment you walk in. They handle it well, and before you come in, and you leave just feeling like you've been
Like
well taken
family.
care of. Yeah, well, they're the most. I think they're most family oriented. They know everybody. They hug everybody when they come out. They're just really kind.
And they get their doggies there, which is always
Yeah,
fun.
I mean, that's
You
our
hear 'em
thing.
snorting every time the talk back comes on. You're just in the background from one of their little guys.
Yeah. Ah,
Ooh,
somebody didn't mute their phone. But the question, we totally lost that. How did we start working on that together? Or
Yeah.
how did we feel about working on that together?
For the first, yeah, like if you remember the first time that you got involved with playing them for the first time.
Gosh, I don't know if my memory goes back that far. It does. Grant and I have always been super excited to work together and super excited to work on this stuff. And that was kind of the beginning of his voiceover career. And I had been doing it for so many years beforehand. So anything that he was involved in, and it's interesting because when I started introducing him to people and he really started showing up for these jobs and like just fitting in, people were like, oh my God, where have you been? And so, whereas there were so many more male roles at that point, and still are, unfortunately, there's so many. I just got an audition yesterday. It was all guys. I'm like, why am I getting this? It was written to me, but why am I getting this? I'm like, I guess I'm one of the guys. But his career just took off, and I loved that. So I think Fire Emblem was kind of at the beginning of that, and watching him get super popular and be like, yeah, that's my husband, and he went from role to role to role to role and lead to lead to lead to lead on that, and that was super awesome. Yeah. So anytime we could work together, and we do, we kind of share this world.
Also, speaking of Panne, what about her do you think that you can relate to the most?
Strength. Yeah, I mean, 100% strength. She's just powerful, and a woman, a boss, and a woman, and a leader, and everything that I aspire to have become and continue my life's quest doing. So yeah, I mean, not always good, but I love Panne. Yeah, I think really an amazing character.
You love carrots, not potatoes.
I like carrots, a lot of carrots. Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. There and it's fun. There's like fun, and the way it's written is done so well and so clever that there's always these quips, and so my character's given a lot of quips, and I think once the directors and the writers kind of get the character, they start writing for you the next stuff. So you see this kind of metamorphosis of characters, where you become more of the character, and they are writing it more for your personality. So I have like a drier edge on a lot of my characters, and I think they picked up on that too. So they started writing a lot of the lines that way as well. Yeah.
And then people started marrying your character. We met somebody who said, "Oh, I married you." Panne in some game. I don't know what game it is where he can actually.
Oh,
get
remember
married.
when we were downtown and we saw the anime marriage and they like you see the freakiest thing is seeing people not at cons, but like outside of cons dressed as your character.
Yeah.
And you want to go tell them, I'm the VA for that. And they're like, but of course, because you're excited for them. But I think we
Right.
saw two of our characters getting married, right?
Yeah, and I actually know about Disgaea wedding too. Somebody was who had
Oh, wow.
Disgaea wedding.
And they call us to do like some sort of,
Officiate.
yeah, we can officiate. We can officiate weddings. But yeah, no, I can.
That's right.
Yeah, but I mean, it's funny because they want you to say something or give their bride something or.
Right. Oh, I love those people who ask you to do it. Can you do the voice of like Ant-Man or something like that? I'm like, it's my own voice. So, I mean,
Now they just go on an AI and do it, but we're trying to avoid that at all probable costs. So, yeah.
Well, one thing with Panne too, I don't know if you even know, but Christopher Smith plays your son, the son of Panne.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I knew that.
Okay.
Yeah.
it's funny.
Yeah, that's funny. Chris Smith or Christopher Smith? Which one? There's two.
Christopher Corey Smith.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Christopher Corey Smith. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, him. We know Cindy.
Yeah.
So for Grant, I know that you touched on it earlier, but which aspects of Sigurd do you relate the most to? Do you think?
Definitely that leadership quality, just sort of being the knight who is all about honor. That keeps coming up in a lot of characters. Like I was saying, like Lancer is all about his honor, and and Dark Knight. I mean, Warrior of Light. And so it's sort of that sort of establishing, really following what's best for the world, I guess, or like I said, helping people who may not have the power to help themselves, and just trying to right the world when things are out of whack. Maybe we need these people in real life. Except if I came back as Warrior of Light, I probably wouldn't take that helmet with the horns because there's some low clearance. I had some guy tell me that he played that they did some kind of
That's funny.
show or something. He was Warrior of Light. He's like, those things are so impractical. Every time I'd walk through a door, it'd knock my helmet off.
Yeah.
So you have to think about that low clearance type thing and whether or not you can walk into a parking garage and clear the 6'5" and all that good stuff.
Do you guys have much attachment to the other two characters you play in Fire Emblem, Clive and Ashura?
Yeah, essentially, because those, for me, Clive was the first one that got me into this game.
Okay.
So, and that's so far back, I don't remember him too much. Cornelia is more recent, really recent, actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really recent. She's the antagonist.
Yep.
So there's that kind of drier side. Yeah, I can't talk too much about that one, but yeah, that character, she was once kind, but so it's in there, but it's been so destroyed, and that was kind of where I had to come from with that character. Like, okay, you've been traumatized, but that kindness still exists way back in the recesses of your mind or your abilities. It's kind of who you are, but you just can't. You got to constantly be in this kind of protective mode.
How'd you save somebody from an epidemic or something? Isn't that what happens? Or she like, yeah, we could use you now. Where was she?
That's right.
COVID
Yeah.
hit?
Well, maybe you'll see some stuff happen.
Yeah, who knows?
I actually have it's Sigurd's son, Selef. I have him tattooed on that.
Whoa! Wow, that's so beautiful.
It's amazing art.
Who did that art?
Someone local here.
Wow.
Wow, in Minneapolis.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Very cool.
That's who you identify with the most, huh?
Yeah. Well, it was because Christian Lamont was the first interview I did after surviving a car crash that should have killed me.
Really?
So-
Wow.
Yeah, I figured it was important enough to get immortalized on me after that.
Yeah.
Wow. And you're all okay now. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Good. Oh my gosh.
How long ago was that?
Last January.
Really?
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
See, those are the stories we talk about.
Who's on your other arm?
Oh, this is Sailor Uranus from Sailor Moon.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Who
Yep.
does that voice?
Erica Mendez.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
I've worked with her.
We've worked with them all
Yeah.
at some point.
I think Erica's incredible. I love watching people when we don't get to work in the ensemble anymore, and COVID certainly got rid of that.
Yeah.
But in the old days, I have such a sneeze coming on. I'm gonna sneeze right into the camera. But just watching her I was on a series with her, and I think our kid was on that series too, right? Yeah, and she just is really good. She just kicks in. She just kicks right into her character. And it's so funny because she doesn't ever look like the character she's doing.
Yeah.
I sometimes look like my characters, which is weird.
Sakura.
But, yeah. You know, but and it's interesting. I'm like, oh, here we go again with the tough girl, right? The big muscular tough girl, or the old lady or whatever. But and then sometimes I just watching her, I'm just like, she doesn't look like that character at all. It's interesting, but man, the stuff that comes out of her is terrific.
Yeah, it's fun to watch other people work. We did a movie years ago, Dawn of the Dead or something like that, where we all had
Yep.
like zombies, and they did it in a really odd way. We were actually doing the looping,
Yep.
the group ADR for that, and instead of typically you'll have like a stationary microphone and everybody will sort of make a half arc around there and do their work that way. But this one was, they were kind of like going in and
Doppler.
out with this, getting that sort of Doppler sound with a mic in and out as we're kind of running around on a sound stage.
That had pins all over it
Yeah.
because they were
Had the
using it as a
pumped up.
wardrobe
Oh.
sound stage, and we had to take our shoes off. And people it was just such a bad environment.
It was pouring rain. This was the last time there was an El Nino or something in Los Angeles, but that was a great opportunity to see a lot of the people who would have worked in Akira and some of the great actors that we've had that have been in it for a long time working together and just seeing what they were doing to create these sounds. Mike Sorge grabbing chicken from the craft service table by the microphone.
Yeah.
And, Mona Marshall and all these different people, and Tony Pope, who was there.
Grant
Right.
George, Jessica G.
Yeah, it's fun to watch how, especially adults, when they're playing like we did when we were little kids and pretending. That's what's fascinating about it.
Mhm.
And then it's interesting too, because there's working in an ensemble. You also see the people who are sitting there on their phones or playing video games in between takes and missing their cues and stuff like that. And you're like, you don't realize what you have, dude. You're playing this character, and people, you're one in millions of people who were selected to be this voice.
Mhm.
So just honor that and be present. And I don't know, it's hard because we always come in very prepared, and our scripts are all noted up with all these ideas of things we want to do. Because that's typically how we'll work with in the ensemble days, is you'll do one pass where it's kind of as scripted, then you'll give a second one where you kind of put your own spin on it, and the third one we give them some really cool alts to see if they want to choose that, and typically that's what they end up choosing, is something where the actors really kind of breathe life more so than just the script itself.
Very isolated now, especially with post-COVID, or hopefully post-COVID, but where we just everybody works from home. But when we have an opportunity, we go in like that. I don't want to be a sound engineer. So, and I never took that on, even though our studio's, top of the line with the best equipment and the best microphones and the best sound system. I don't want to be responsible for not having it turn out great, and it's more than that. It's about having the interaction with the people that are in the studio with you. So I'd rather go in. Directing, I don't mind so much, unless it's if we're doing a game, that's fine, or it has to be late night because it's coming out of Asia. But I like having the connection to people. It makes it real.
Yeah, and there's something to it that like kicks your performance up just a little
Little bit
extra
more.
notches, because there's somebody immediately watching you. So it's more like being on stage than it is being isolated in your own booth and doing your own thing.
But you're also watching a director, and they're like, I want you to expand that. I want you to, you know what I mean? Like expanding it, and you're watching their face and their gestures, and you're like, got it. But if you're hearing that, there's a whole different, what is, you know, and you close your eyes and you listen to that same direction. That's what you're getting if you're working from home. So it's not as effective for me. I can't speak for other people. Other people love it that way. You know, they don't have to, we love being able to work from home, especially with commercials.
So is there anything else that's upcoming you guys are part of that you can safely talk about?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of, well, yeah. Well, it's two things we cannot talk about, but they're huge. Big, 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 big. We've already discussed them in here. So,
Okay.
yes. And one we had the opportunity to direct, which was awesome. And so that will be a fan favorite.
Yeah.
And it's really fun coming back as the directors now that we're adults.
Mhm.
But sort of. But finally, I can say with joy that we've been off the con circuit for so many years, just because we needed our kids to be able to grow up a little bit. And now they're like, when are we going back to those cons? So we're back on the con circuit. And, you know, and we're like, nobody's going to know us. But the cool thing is that the anime community loves the old stuff too.
Right.
And that stuff never really dies. Like there's the new stuff and there's the Crunchyroll stuff but some of the old stuff is really hip. So when we were, you know, announced, they snatched us up for that stuff. And so we have a couple of cons coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have our first couple booked.
Yeah, and we're doing a lot of directing too, which has been fun. We co-direct projects, so one of us or the other. And one of them is that project that's coming up. It's a super fun, beloved game that we've directed. So
And been in.
That'll be out in fall. And then we're also doing a lot of directing of English dubs for Netflix and Disney Plus and
One comes out today.
Yeah, one actually releases today, April 14th, called Queenmaker on Netflix. And
that was a passion project.
Yeah, it's a Korean series, like I think 12 episodes.
So good.
Episodes.
Yeah.
It's already got some great reviews. People are digging it. It is a really good episode. I mean, a really good series. So.
And then, yeah, we've got some mobile apps coming up with some of these characters that we were talking about, and that's cool. And yeah, I mean, we're just cranking, you know, continuing to crank it out, doing it every which way. Yeah, so we're excited, and we hope that that people connect with us.
My final question is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
I think a lot of it's sort of what I've talked about today is leaving the world a better place. I think that it needs a lot of healing right now. There's a lot of stuff going on, and especially where we live in Los Angeles, there's a lot of situations that need some healing and some kind of light. And it's hard to be someone who follows the laws and believes in that the world can be better and that it can, you know,
Moral justice.
Yeah, it's because it sometimes feels like it's just overwhelmed, but sort of being a voice for that in the world. And then, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Our what the gifts that we have are entertainment. And I think it's easy to say that that's not important in the world, but I think especially when we had lockdowns and people needed entertainment. And I think more than ever, people need an escape, even if it's just sitting down for something that's just random or has no meaning. It's just pure entertainment. It makes you laugh. That's important too. If it's a game that takes you to another world where you can kind of explore that and then come back to reality, that's important. And it's, you know, we don't take that lightly. We really, it's a gift that we've been able to be a part of that magic for people and that storytelling and that escape. So hopefully, like we said, you know, it's important to people like you who have been through something, and just to be able to laugh or have fun or just not pay attention to whatever pain or anything that they're in at the moment is absolutely important in the world.
Oh my gosh, don't look at me to answer that question after that. Okay, so I ditto, yeah, like I second that emotion.
Yeah.
But you know, I'll just add on, like in terms of legacy, what's always stuck out to me, and you know, all of that stuff is really important, and I would definitely take that as an overshadow to what I'm about to say. But I think you know, I have this like Bart Simpson kind of esque attitude about being able to have the #1 animation show on TV, and I don't care in the way that shows up, but characters that live long on t-shirts. And 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 that's what I want, and that's what I've always wanted. I'll reprise any role that Gene Vanderpyle that from the Flintstones did. I like those old things that people did that are making a comeback. You know, doing anything that has a big role, like I said, that ends up on clothing, because you know, and in pillows and on plushies and lunch boxes. That's what I want, and that's what I've always wanted. And like, you know, I always laugh. I said to somebody a couple weeks ago, oh, I'm going into the grave and I'm pulling in my Neumann. Like I'm still going to be working, and you know, I'm going to be working until I get that. That's always been super important for me. So that's what I want to leave behind. Great characters, great character. That one, just that one that goes into everybody's home. Yeah. So sorry, it's not as flowery and spiritual. But yeah, I think that that's super important too, because those characters do all that you were saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Coming from someone who, like a suicidal teenager that listened to both your guys growing up, it just means a lot to be able to talk to you today. So thanks.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you for your honesty and
Yeah.
sharing your story, because I think there's a lot of people who can identify
And we're
know that
parents.
there's always hope. And there's
Yeah.
always something worth living for. And
We're parents of two teenagers and one who's autistic, and so that's why I was saying, you know, that in the anime world you meet a lot of people who are autistic, and we have, and so, and you know, we've been graced by being able to hang out with them, and really have this kind of understanding of their world a little bit more, because that's what we deal with on a daily basis. And then also having a teenager who's a little bit older than that, who, you know, is really suffering through, you know, some of the aspects of his own life right now. And it's hard, man. I would not want to be growing up in this time at all, or even, you know, 15 years ago. I just wouldn't. And it was a lot different when we were growing up. So,
but now you added like social media has a lot of pressures too for teens,
and just people not fitting in, you know, it's hard to fit in. It just is hard to fit in. So any place that we can make people feel comfortable, we're committed to that. You know, just accepting people for who they are and giving them a you know, a reason. It's interesting that you say that, Chris, because I in doing all this, I also became a marriage and family counselor.
Oh.
So, you know, and it's interesting because I had to look at my own life and sit there and say, like, am I doing enough for the world as a voice actor? And the answer was no. And that propelled Grant on his own quest also. And we're all these books behind us. We're right now getting our doctorate both together.
Wow.
So, and that's to be able to provide, you know, mental health to other people. So, you know, so I think that that's super important as well. You can have this really fun life, and then this life where you're, you know, where you're able to provide and give and assist and love and, you know, help people make it to the next level. So, yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that we really realize is how important every person is. Like everybody is really, they are here for a reason.
Yeah.
And you may not know that or identify that, but I mean, like if you're driving
Or like
down a freeway and you see people working on the side, you're going to be careful because you know that person who's working there is important to that family that he belongs to. They're counting on him to come home, or you know, it just, or even our son. You know, we because we've raised him to be consciously aware of the environment and that type of thing, he just took a trip. Now he went and planted mangrove trees in Costa Rica with a bunch of other kids, 205 of these things, and that we read about what that does and how it contributes to the oxygenation of our planet and how much, you know, see carbon dioxide it eats. I mean, it like just being a parent and teaching something, or just being important in someone's life. The universe has a plan because that affects this person to that person. Like it's working out all of its stuff behind the scenes, and it needs you to do this, to do that, so that you have an impact in the world.
And kids aren't taught that, you know, by their parents. They're not, you know, and like, how can I help the world? That message is never given. It's not given as much as it should, I should say. And so it's really important. Our older kid, we're like, what can you do for the environment? What can you do to help with the world? What can you do for animals? What, you know, take what you love and do it. And, you know, he showed up to a prom of kids who he may not see next year because they suffer from kidney disease. Oh. And they wanted to have kids there that were, you know, not suffering from this, and just kind of mix it for them. Kids who can go outside of their bubble and be able to talk and mingle with the other kids that were there. And those guys, I brought in 5 boys, 5 teenagers, and they had the best time. You know, they're doing something good for other people who don't have it so good. They don't have it so well. Yeah. So that's us.
Well, thank you guys so much. Hope you have a good rest of your day then.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. I'm glad you're okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And you have great hair.
Thank you.
You hear that all the time. I hear that all the time, and mine's big and awful right now, but yeah, you have good hair.
We'll see you guys then.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.